Hi everybody, so I've been wanting to do some more video blogging. The plan was to do video blogging for adventures, but actually what I'm feeling, inspired is not the right word, but I guess motivated to blog about today is the experience I have very recently unfortunately had of being burgled, and how it's making me feel a mixture of slightly vulnerable, slightly targeted as a single woman living on her own, versus angry that somebody thinks you're a single woman living on your own, and so you know I can beg you and get away with it. So about 2 months ago, when I was attending the Film Rights Caravan Writers Residency in Sweden, I was checking my WhatsApp and I saw a message from my sister saying we got burgled, and I'm like, oh my god, and the worst thing is when these things happen and you're out of the country or away. So I was WhatsApping, Skyping them, all really panicky. And in a nutshell, I had a house sitter. My house sitter is a good friend of my sister. I consider her my sister as well. And one evening my sister came over to just keep her company, and thank goodness she did, because my sister wakes up like she's dead asleep, right? Dead asleep. And she just told me she could just feel like something kept touching her. And she was thinking, when you're sleeping, you're thinking, oh, it can't be a mosquito. What's going on? And then she suddenly remembered that the lights are going to go off in the morning and she needed to iron. So she jumped out of bed. Like literally, she said she jumped out she's lying on the bed, and the next minute she's standing there. And she's puzzled for a couple of seconds because the room is flooded with lights, and she's thinking, what's going on? And she's looking at the window and she realizes there's a man standing outside the window, and he's put a stick through the burglar proof and opened the window and is basically pulling something. And she's looking at him, he's staring at her, and she starts to scream, thief, thief, thief. And this man is just still standing there pulling whatever he's pulling. And then she runs to the other window to move it open, and then she realizes it's already open, so she starts calling for my landlord, right, who lives next door, and is a retired major. And then that is when the thief ran off. They discovered that my sister's friend's laptop had been stolen, my sister's phone was stolen, and that of course was really quite worrying. So a friend of ours decided to hire a security company to send a guard over to the house for a month, and he was like, when the month is over, you can decide what you want to do. So I was just like torn when I came back. I'm like, I really think these people are just taking advantage. They've noticed I live on my own. They'd noticed I wasn't around. They'd noticed maybe somebody else was here, so they thought, easy target. I thought, this is an opportunistic theft. It's highly unlikely to happen again. But I was like, I don't know. I live on my own. Maybe I should get, a security company. I thought of various options. People told me about various things. Get a dog. I've been reluctant. I mean, I don't want the work of looking after the dog, feeding, taking the dog to walk, training the dog. And what happens when I travel, right? Who's going to look after my dog when I'm away? Anyway, so I thought, okay, I'll stay with that security company. I thought it was a bit expensive. I actually considered getting like an individual watchman, because I'm like, from what I've heard, to these security companies, they take all of this money and it doesn't go all to the security guard, which is kind of understandable, but like most of it doesn't go to the security guard. And I was like, anyway, in the long run, I decided, let me stick with the company for a couple of months. The guy that they had initially assigned me, he was clearly special, okay? Yes, he had no filters. And sometimes he'd say to me, I waited for you all night, you didn't come home. And I'm thinking, my boyfriend, my husband, oh my God, you shouldn't be wondering about my personal movements. Or, he'd be like, there's one time he ate, and then he said to my sister's friend, oh, I just finished eating, I had some leftovers, do you want it? Like, just some really strange comments, which made you realize that, okay, not everything is where it should be. But I was like, okay, maybe this is that kind of job he can do. But I thought, no, I'm not feeling secure with you as my guide. I don't really feel like you can protect me. And also, he was extremely, the word I want to use is puny. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, Puny. I was just like, no. So when it was time to pay up the company, I said, you know what? I need you to send me a different guard. I'm just not comfortable with this guy. And they sent somebody else, and I was like, oh yes, this guy looks like somebody who can protect me if anybody came over, you know. So it's been kind of fine. And then I came home last night. The guy that's supposed to come at 6. He's often quite late, and sometimes we'll get here closer to 7. You know, so sometimes I'm waiting for him to come home. I'm like, Chile, I need to go out. I'm waiting for you to come home so I can leave. What is this? You know, different excuses. I was trying to be understandable. I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be with me for a while. Let me make sure he's happy, whatever. So I won't always report him to the company. I'll call him up and I'm like, where are you? He's like, oh, I'm on my way. My bike broke down, blah, blah, blah. I'm having such trouble with where I'm living. The last time I'm like, okay, because I was also feeling quite bad about having a guard, like somebody like sitting outside my house sleeping. I was like, okay, maybe I should get him a tent so the mosquitoes won't chew him. You know, I should, you know, so like the last time the security company came over to take the money, I'm like, Charlie, when is this day off? I haven't seen him have a day off so far. You know, you guys need to make sure your staff have days off. I was like, you know, wanting to do advocacy for this guy's rights. And they were like, oh, because he just started, you know, we're still trying to figure that out. So I was like, okay, one of the bells should have gone off, right? Like, he just started. I was like, it was just like a hint of the warning bell, but not like, it was like, cling, 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 cling. So I was just like, okay, cool. So actually it was Friday night when we were filling up my generator. I get him to help me fill up my generator because I built a cage for the generator and it's made it too hard for me to fill it myself. So I get him to help me when he's over. So after we filling my generator, I was like, okay, so how are you finding the work? And he's like, oh, your work here, it's fine. It's, you know, it's easy. I was like, oh, good. I thought, oh, okay, you know, I can understand how it's easy. All you have to do is really come and sit outside and, you know, sleep after a while. Because there's really nothing to do. I mean, if I go out, you open me to go out. When I come back in, you open me to come in. So I was like, oh, good. I'm glad he's, you know, because he actually sounded happy. And he was like, oh, you know, the last time, you know, when your brother came over to look after the place when you traveled, you can just tell me and I'll come and look over the place instead. And I was like, really, seriously? My brother was sleeping in my house. I'm not going to let you sleep in my house. I don't know you. But I was like, okay, cool. And so Saturday night, I come home around 9 and he's not here. And I'm like, this is very late. He's never been this late before. Usually by 7 he's here. And I was like, okay, I texted the security company. And I didn't get a response from them. And I thought, shall I call them up? Shall I call people up? And I thought, oh, it's just one night. Let me not even stress about it, right? Because with the first security guard, there was one night where he didn't come over. It was raining. You know those things, Ghana people, Charlie. It's raining. I couldn't come. I was like, okay, let me not stress about it. And I was like, will anybody come and rob me? I'm like, no, this one night, no, nothing's going to happen. So I padlocked my gates and, you know, just double checked and locked everywhere and went to bed. Now around 2:30 a.m. I sort of woke up like kind of, and you say Mebo Dream, like me, I'm shame. You know, I was just startled. And I was like, why have I woken up kind of panicking? I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just being paranoid because I know there's no guard outside. I'm being nervous. So I just went and locked my bedroom door because I don't like to actually lock my bedroom door. Everything that's locked, I don't want to lock my bedroom door as well. But I went and locked my bedroom door, peed, and went back to bed. In the morning, my cleaner came over because he needed a loan. His child was nowhere. I gave him the loan. He asked if there was anything else he needed. I looked at my clothes hanging on the line and I thought of asking him to bring them in for me. And I was like, oh, you're being lazy. This guy already worked the day before. Let him go. So I was like, oh, it's fine. Just go. So when he went, I went outside to take my clothes off the line. And I'm taking my clothes off the line and I look down and my generator is not there. My heavy generator. That's the last time I moved. It took 4 people to move. And these 4 people were cussing, they were stopping, they were like, somebody's like my back, my waist. The generator is not there. I'm like, hey, where's the generator? And the worst bit was I was supposed to have sold this generator on Friday. I'd found somebody to buy the generator because I was tired of the noise and I wanted to get an inverter. And I was like, okay, if I sell the generator, at least I can raise some of the money and top up and get an inverter. This generator was not there. Hey! Ha! I was like, this one, dear. So straight away I called the security company and I was like, did you get my text message yesterday? They were like, oh yes, and we called the security guard, he didn't pick up. And I was like, okay, so the one night your security guard doesn't come, my generator gets stolen. They're like, oh. And the woman was like, okay, I'm in church. So even though I'm in church, I'm going to call the director and then I'll call you back. Long story short, I have been chasing the security company all of yesterday, giving me different excuses. In the evening, okay, I went to report to the police station. In the police station, the sergeant was like, okay, when the security guard comes in the night, in the morning, ask him to come and report to the police station to explain his absence the night before. you know. So after doing everything at the police station, I went to my parents. I was so stressed, chilled out there for a while. And I was like, let me come back home early and see when the security guard will come. I waited there. He never came. He never came. The security guard never came. But in a way, I'm happy because for me now, it's very clear that he's the chief suspect, right? So I'm feeling a little bit more secure. Like, okay, the first time was opportunistic. The second time was the guard. And then the security company sent back the first very special person who was guarding me. You know, I was just like, oh, maybe I should have stayed with this special person in the first place. Maybe he wouldn't have burgled me. But it's annoying. It's kind of worrying because this previous guard spent about a month in my house. Like, he knows my house, he knows my patterns, and yeah, I'm pissed off. You know, like, I'm pissed off. Yeah. So I don't even know what the point of this vlog is. Maybe it's to vent. Yeah, I don't know what the point is. But anyway, here it is. Alright, later. Next vlog might be something sexy. In fact, not that might be. It'll definitely be something sexy. Something adventures related. Alright. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe.